traffickers and prevent them to establish in Sweden. Most of the women I meet come from Nigeria, Romania, Bulgaria, and they don't have a voice in the public debate. They are not the ones sitting in the TV studios. They are not interviewed by the newspaper, and that's why we, as Swedish police, try to be the voice of the voiceless. This is the superhero cop Simon Häggström, the head of the Stockholm Police Prostitution Group. With this report coming out, also I'm moving from Sweden, so we're going all in. So in the report that we are publishing now, we did interviews around discrimination with about 35 sex workers. 7 of them mentioned problems with the police, and 6 of them mentioned problems with one specific police. Every single one of them said the same name, Simon Häggström. We're naming and shaming nowadays. Yeah. Yay, it's time. Also what they said when we did Another Horizon, what they say about the law, was that a lot of people that did a survey didn't know if they had more or less clients because they started working after the law. But still they knew that stigma was up because of the law. 90% thought so. That the law created more prejudice as well. And no one thought, well, I think it was 3% thought that it was easier to stop selling sex because of the law or because of the whole political climate we have in Sweden. And there has lately been people starting to pay attention. So RFSU, which is the IPPF in Sweden, actually one of the founding members of International Planned Parenthood Federation, they did a knowledge overview, very much a result of the chair of Rose Alliance and the late Jasmine that died 2 years ago. They pushed for it within RFSU. So they looked at intended and unintended effects and looked at all the knowledge that was there and actually accepted our research as real research. Isn't it fancy? And they said, we don't know if it's more or less sex workers. We don't know if it's more or less clients, because we don't know. Is it less trafficking? Yes, it seems like it has a slight effect on trafficking. On the other hand, we have so much deportations of migrant sex workers in Sweden as an effect of that, because if people don't identify as victims, we immediately deport them, even if they're EU citizens, even if they have the right to be in Sweden. Why? Because they are earning a living in a dishonest way and are therefore a threat to society. Even if they have a visa to work in Sweden and to live in Sweden, we deport them. Because they're a threat to society, and we need to protect society. The administrative board of the region of Stockholm, which is responsible for the anti-trafficking work, they did a size estimation. We love those because they always treat us with so much respect when they want to count us. 1, 2, 3, I don't know this obsession with how many we are. They can never count us, but let them try. Anyway, the woman that did it was actually good, nice, and tried to do a good job. We even got a paper signed from her, or not from her, from the whole authority, where they promised to destroy all the data after they counted us, so they wouldn't have IP addresses and shit. And then we said, then we can at least look at your interview material so you don't insult people. So when they looked at it last time, there were 400 or 500 ads out on the internet. Now it was 6,000 something. But they said it's probable that some sex workers put out multiple ads. Yeah, but not 100 each. It's like 6,000 ads out. So, conclusion, it doesn't seem like we have less sex work in Sweden, so that is not working. But I think I'm aware of my time. I had 25 minutes on the schedule. I actually should have 10 more minutes. I'm going to use it all. No. I think the real thing, numbers saying 90% of sex workers think this. I think the real thing is really hearing what people say. For real, I'm so sick and tired of people saying that, when sex workers are doing, when we're using quotes from our own community, it's anecdotal. No, it's not anecdotal. They have to stop calling it anecdotal. If I had a PhD, it wouldn't be called anecdotal just because I don't know. That has to stop. So I'm going to read 2 quotes on discrimination and why they think this happened to them from 2 sex workers. When it comes to this mix of contempt and excessive care, I would think it's an expression of the whole society's view on prostitution and prostitutes. I think that the whole legislation expresses the view of society. Pure contempt coupled with excessive care. People despise prostitution as a phenomenon, and this hate extends to the person who says that they have chosen it. Therefore, in order to be able to feel empathy for a person and to perceive the individual in a positive way, the person must be made a victim, someone who is subjected to the evils of prostitution and not an active practitioner. If the person states that they have chosen it, it is just a delusion created by another evil person. And the poor, foolish person who is subjected to prostitution has to be saved. The side effect of this is that if the person does not want to be saved, the person must be persuaded and be made to realize that prostitution is destructive and that the person does not know what is best for them. Even if this is at the expense of having to destroy a person's self-esteem in cases when someone has a positive self-image connected to sex work. To help someone who is active as a sex worker would thus be to support evil itself. This is one sex worker and how she feels about it. And this is an indoor sex worker that is living pretty protected, studying, there will be people that are even worse off. And I can only agree, this is how it feels. It feels...
It's 5 minutes.
Oh, perfect. It feels like if they can't convince us that we are victims, we are just unaware of it because we're so damaged, they rather kill us. That's how it feels. They rather kill us. They know that we had, well, apart from Pye Jasmine that many of you know, but we had another sex worker, but they took custody of her kids again because she's so damaged, she can't take care of herself, so she can't take care of her kids. She committed suicide because she knew she would never get them back. They know this. You understand? They know this. But I think it's worth it. It's like get in line or take the consequences. Another sex worker said about her therapist wanted to change her medication. She has some anxiety stuff going on. Changed her medication and said, this is really, really good. It's going to take away your sex drive. She's 27, having a very healthy relationship with her female partner. And then, so why? And she said, I think she bought this whole idea that there is some kind of disgusting, dirty cloud, complete with flies around sex workers. And when you live in that misery long enough, you become blind and can't see it. And therefore, a third party is needed, someone clever like her, who can get you to understand how extremely stupid you are. She has seen all the pictures of how we're dying in the gutter and on dirty mattresses, and then just never thought about it. That's how I think it is. Kind of sad, huh? And this is a variation. I mean, every single sex worker we talk with say the same thing. I mean, this is what they all say, regardless of if they hate it, love it, or like most of us, somewhere in between, depending on everything else. But as I said, we are publishing this report. It started with these interviews. Then we decided to collect quotes. The police are going to speak for themselves. We used their quotes, so they can't say that they didn't say it. The parliaments, we have tons of documents from parliaments translated. And then it flipped, it's 300 pages. I sort of went, I'm a bit obsessive at times. But this is us declaring war on Sweden. Well, they declared war on us a long, long time ago, but this is us saying it's enough. So we've been careful before because we've been afraid of not being able to have funding. I've been having police staking out my apartment already for a year. But they need to know that the social services where Pye Jasmine was murdered on their premises has still not reported themselves that they're obliged to do under Swedish law. After 2 years they haven't done it, and there has been no investigation to why it happened. The prostitution unit in Stockholm denied to provide medical care to a suicidal sex worker because she didn't show she was interested enough in stop selling sex. The prostitution unit in Gothenburg told the sex worker that had been raped not to report the rape, and then tried to convince her to quit sex work. Miki Nagata, that works at the Stockholm prostitution unit, outed a trans sex worker at a meeting on the LGBT organization. And with 2 Rose Alliance members present, we stopped her. That's why she stopped talking about this sex worker. Breaking every code of conduct you have for social workers. Karin Sidenvall, another social worker at the Stockholm prostitution unit, bullied a Rose Alliance member during those same meetings, saying she was for trafficking and silencing her. Anna Skarhed, our Attorney General, that did the evaluation, sat at a meeting and said, there must be a way we can make sure Rose Alliance lose their funding. Yeah. Same person talked with the Minister of Foreign Affairs after the Minister of Foreign Affairs received an email from a very well-known academic in the US saying that an academic we have in Sweden should be stopped. And then she forwarded this email to the police, to the social services, focusing on an academic that is critical about the law, trying to get her silenced. And finally, the superhero cop, Simon Hegström, that emailed me on Facebook on a Sunday that took the fingerprints and photos of a migrant sex worker because he claimed that her photos were false. And then when he understood he couldn't use her as a trafficking victim, dropped her off in the middle of the street at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of Stockholm with nowhere to go because the hotel had thrown her out after he informed them. And I will end with, can I just end with one thing? I've been traveling far, Nikki. I'm going to say it slow. No. The report is called, then again, they're not totally crazy either, which is also a quote from a nice social worker. And the report ends with a quote that I'm going to end this with. Maybe you managed to convince the world that you care, but you can't fool me. You hate us. We symbolize everything you hate about men, society, sex, and life. So this is about your hatred combined with a hunger for power. You might fool others, but you and I both know the truth, and soon others will know too. So enjoy your power trip while you can. Soon it will be over, and the truth will set me free. I win. You lose. Bye-bye.